Luke here with your Weather Wednesday video post. This week I'm bringing you hurricane myths. Don't worry, I'm not going to drag this out for 3 weeks. I am just bringing you the 8 most common myths that surround hurricanes. So let's get right down to it. Here are the 8 most common hurricane myths. This first myth is still widely believed to be true. Taping windows will prevent them from shattering. I don't know how this myth got started, but what's even more troublesome is that people believed it, and it's been around for a long time. I mean, a really long time. I remember that being a thing when I was growing up in Miami, during hurricane season, people would just tape up their windows instead of using shutters or plywood. But let's stop and think about this for a second. Tape on a window and hurricane force winds. Doesn't matter what kind of tape you have on there, and it's not like people are using duct tape. They're using painter's tape or masking tape. It's still gonna shatter. The pieces will just be bigger. I mean, you've got hurricane force winds upwards, 120 miles an hour, and something comes crashing into your window. I don't even think duct tape's gonna stop it. And the point is, windows aren't designed to withstand hurricane force winds anyway. Experts even say windows with the film that are sold as impact resistant are still not a smart option in protecting windows, because even those types of windows aren't designed to handle hurricane winds. Storm shutters and plywood that covers the entire window are always safer. Myth number 2. The higher the category number, the more damage the storm will cause. So the Saffir-Simpson hurricane scale defines the intensity of storms in 5 categories. Category 1 being the lowest, Category 5 being the highest. These categories are based on the maximum sustained winds of the hurricane, and they typically do it around the eye of the hurricane, because that's where the winds are the strongest. So the lower the pressure of a storm, the more intense the hurricane is. But what people don't realize, size is a factor here too. I mean, there are numerous examples of bigger sized hurricanes that are lower on the Saffir-Simpson scale that caused more damage. For example, Hurricane Charlie back in 2004 had sustained winds of 120 miles per hour, but it was pretty small. The surge along the Florida's west coast was only about 6 to 7 feet in range. On the flip side of that, 4 years later, Hurricane Ike was considerably weaker, with only sustained winds at 95 miles per hour, but was bigger. The surge that Ike brought to the Texas-Louisiana coast ranged from 12 to 17 feet high. Need I say more? All right, so this next myth is pretty interesting. Myth number 3. The only threat from a hurricane is the wind. I don't even know what to say to that. I'm kind of dumbfounded about this one. Do people really believe that? All right. So clearly wind isn't the only threat from a hurricane. There are rains, and of course, the storm surge, which is a sudden rise in sea level along the coast where ocean water is pushed inward or inland by hurricane winds. All these 3 things, so the wind, the storm surge, and the rain, these are all big factors in a hurricane. Moving on to myth number 4. It is okay to leave your house after the storm has passed. Yeah, no. This is definitely not something you want to do. Trust me, I know by the time the storm has passed, cabin fever has been set in since the storm began, especially if the storm lasts multiple days, if they're slow moving. But you don't know what awaits for you outside your shuttered home. There could be downed trees or power lines. Roads that look like they've only flooded a couple of inches can have actually flooded a few feet. So it is best to stay inside until you are told it is safe. So I don't know what to think about this next one. It's really interesting and perplexing all at the same time. Myth number 5 is that storing your valuables inside your dishwasher will protect them from floodwaters. The thought process behind this myth is that since a dishwasher is great at keeping water inside, it can also help prevent water from coming in. So it's good at keeping water outside. I'm not buying it. Listen, if your house can get flooded, so can your dishwasher. Myth number 6. Hurricanes only hit coastal areas. Yes and no. Yes, it is true that hurricanes lose about 50% of their wind intensity within 12 to 18 hours of making landfall. And yes, coastal areas are the first to get hit because where the hurricanes develop in the ocean. So yes, but that doesn't mean the remnants of hurricanes aren't dangerous. For example, Hurricane Camille back in 1969. Camille made landfall over Louisiana but caused a lot of damage days later with a horrific flood in Virginia around the Blue Ridge Mountains. This next one may sound familiar to you. Myth number 7, opening windows during a hurricane will stabilize the pressure. Just like the tornado myth, the idea of this myth is that you need to equalize the pressure in the storm so your house doesn't explode. Buildings aren't airtight to begin with, and homes already have little openings throughout that would just make opening windows completely unnecessary. Not only that, but opening your windows during a hurricane can cause a lot more damage than you think. Alright, for this final myth, I'm going to admit it caught me by surprise a little bit. Myth number 8 is there's no need to leave town when an evacuation was ordered because the weather looks okay. Listen, if there's a mandatory evacuation order that is issued for your area ahead of a potential hurricane impact, it's best to leave sooner rather than later. Not only would you be putting yourself in danger, but you'd also be putting the emergency responders at risk waiting till the last minute. Just don't do it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I hope you learned a little bit more about hurricanes and the myths that surround them. Any questions or comments, leave a comment down below. Call me, email me, text me. I would love to hear from you. Next Weather Wednesday, earthquakes. Until next time, guys, have a good one.